This is the Green Corn Rebellion show. I am Gregory Harden II, and today I'm here with Matt Christman, who is one of the hosts of Chapo Traphouse. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. First question I have here is where are you from and where did you grow up at?
I'm from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, which is about an hour or so north of Milwaukee on the coast of Lake Michigan. If anybody saw the show Making a Murderer, that's the town that I'm from.
Okay, that's cool. You happen to know anyone who's voting today in Wisconsin?
I mean, I don't have that many people who still live there. I doubt any of them are voting. I don't really come from a family of very avid voters, so I doubt they're braving the quarantine to do that.
All right. Well, that's good, I guess. So what helped shape your politics?
I don't know. I think the answer to those kind of questions are generally things people don't even realize as they're happening. So I can't really tell looking back even what specifically did. I guess just some people have suggested to me that it might have been the fact that I got a pretty bad spinal injury when I was 18, and that that might have given me an understanding of the contingent nature of life, and less likely to credit just those stories about individual initiative and all that stuff that undergird uh, the ideology of America. But I don't know for sure because it all just accrues sort of without your knowledge. They're like sedimentary layers or something.
All right. How'd you get your injury?
It was just a freak infection. No one knows to this day.
Hmm, okay. So how did Chapo Trap House start, and what was it like whenever y'all first started it?
It started the way that it is now. It's kind of gone full circle. We just recorded an episode that was me, Felix, and Will on Zoom, and that's how the show started. Only the difference was that I lived in Cincinnati and we were using instead of Zoom, we were using uh, Google Hangouts. But it was basically the same thing, and we would just rip off the audio from the YouTube uh, channel when we would go live because none of us actually knew how to do video editing or anything. So it was all very improvised.
All right. And when the show started to catch on, what was that like? You
I
got
was It was very surprising. We didn't expect that. We kind of just were looking to maybe get some more Twitter followers out of it, and then uh, it got an audience very quickly, and then well, that was very surprising. We got mentioned in the Onion after I think our second episode when it was still really lo-fi and hard to listen to, and we but then shortly after that, Brendan James came on as a guest, and he had production experience, so he was able to save us really and make the show more viable for uh, a broader audience by making it more listenable and adding editing and stuff like that. And then after that, we launched the Patreon about like 3 months after we started, and I was very nervous about that at first because I was worried it was going to fail miserably. And then it took off, and it was just sort of like at that point it just starts to roll downhill, and it's hard even to keep track, and at the end of it you just find yourself in a place like we were on tour in the last month in February through of early primary states, and you just look around and you're like, wow, how the hell did this happen? But it's hard to know. Same thing with ideology. It's all happened so slowly, and it's hard to recognize exactly what's happening while it is.
all right. So what did you do before Chapo started?
I was a kind of spottily employed fail husband, I guess. My wife had jobs in different academic libraries, and I would sort of house husband, and then I had part-time jobs. My longest stint at like a job was I was at Barnes and Noble. I worked there as a at the info desk and cashiering and stuff for a couple like 4 years.
All right. So what are your thoughts on the Democratic primary race and the presidential race? And do you think Bernie had a better shot at winning in 2016 or this year?
I don't think he really had a chance at all to win in 2016 because he wasn't
Mhm.
running to win then. He was running as a protest to try to uh, push Hillary Clinton to the left, and he didn't realize until I think probably like a week before Iowa that he had an actual chance to challenge her, and so he didn't run a real campaign. This time he had this time he had years to prepare something, so and the infrastructure was there, so his best chance was this one for sure. But we discovered over the course of the years that the hegemonic control that the Democratic Party holds over its media messaging is pretty ironclad, and that the mobilization of people outside of the party structure to get involved in voting didn't happen to the degree it needed to. Which they were yelling the whole time. They said those people don't vote. You're not going to get them to vote, and maybe they can be made to vote, but whatever Bernie tried to do didn't work. And But I would still say that the attempt needed to be made certainly, and I think that there was still progressive in the sense that it's sharpened the distinctions between the left and the Democratic Party and has deepened the alienation, especially now with the entire process being completely invalidated by the Democratic Party's decision to certify a bunch of fraudulent primaries that happened under pandemic conditions with polling places being closed at random, and they're still just qualifying these as viable elections, and in fact telling people to go out and vote and take their lives in their hands just to give the nomination to a decrepit reactionary. Uh, I don't know if it's going to be enough to change the lay of the land, but I do think that it's good that more people now realize exactly what the Democratic Party is than did before this process started.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are your thoughts on the coronavirus and how that's being handled?
Well, it's clearly been a huge botch. I mean, because there was a fundamental conflict between uh, taking precautions that would have been necessary re- to to prevent a mass outbreak, and then the short-term economic uh, interests of the economy broadly conceived. And if in that contest, the winner was always going to be uh, um, the winner was always going to be business interests. So it's not surprising that the reality of what needed to be done was ignored for so long, but it's also undeniable that conflict and that inability to think long term or even medium term or beyond like that day's receipts or whatever has definitely had a wildly bad impact.
Yeah. Okay. One of the last things I have here is what kind of music do you listen to?
Lately I've been listening to a lot of singer songwriters the 70s, like Warren Zevon, I like Gordon Lightfoot, that kind of thing. Uh, I also like and I will not apologize for my love of the band Cake. Uh, I know that people think that they're like a novelty act, but I think they're actually really good.
They are good. I like Cake.
Yeah.
I remember you told me you liked movie soundtracks.
When I was a kid, yeah, because
Mm.
I was a dilettante and I didn't really have the interest to like dive in on a lot of albums, especially since I was always worried by the album there's one song on it and you don't like the rest of the songs and now you got an album you don't these are all problems that no young person relates to now. And so a movie soundtrack was like pre-selected collection of songs I knew I already liked because I saw the movie.
Yeah.
So that was like a good way to just get a buffet of songs you know you're gonna like and not. It was all economic. It was all just parsimoniousness of not wanting to buy songs I didn't want to listen to.
That makes sense because I bought CDs whenever I was growing up. So like, and that was just like within the last 10 years. And instead of downloading the songs on iTunes or whatever. So I can understand that, the whole wanting to make sure you're buying the right thing as opposed to buying something that you're probably not going to like. Um, but what else is there? Did you like the Queen of the Damned soundtrack?
No, I did not listen to that one.
Okay.
Aaliyah, I'm assuming she was on there.
So what?
Who was on there?
It was mostly like some new metal artists like Static X. I think Chester Bennington had a song on there. David Draven of Disturbed had a song on there too. I know that whenever I used to listen to Pandora on my iPod when I was younger, and I would listen to like Disturbed radio or Limp Bizkit radio, a lot of those songs would show up, and I remember it would be on the Queen of the Damned soundtrack, and it was basically one of the like new metal soundtracks of the time, and it was like way back in like the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like one of the soundtracks that I remembered, at least the name of it because of that. There's also my mom, she would listen to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, and had like Whitney Houston and Tony Braxton, stuff like that on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we would listen to the Ali soundtrack. I think who was it that played? I want to say it was Will Smith that played Muhammad Ali in that movie. I think it was like 2001 somewhere.
Ali with the Michael Mann movie.
Yeah. So that's my, you know, um, that's where I'm at with soundtracks. I mostly just bought CDs of the bands I listened to.
No,
Like,
that's
yeah.
what like actual music fans do. But I was a little dilettante and never really got into anything too hard. I never really got into any scene very hard. I would just flit on the surface.
That's cool. It's really cool. Well, anyway, that's all I have here. I was trying to think of some stuff to talk about and couldn't really think of a whole lot. But thank you very much for coming on. Where can we find you on social media? And where can we find Chapo Traphouse?
Chapo Traphouse. You can find it on I believe iTunes and such, and places where podcasts are sold. I'm on Twitter at cushbomb.com, at cushbomb.org.
All right. And be careful on tour. I listened to that episode you guys recorded earlier this week, and you guys said you were on tour, so be careful out there.
Well, we're back now, thankfully, and now we're all battened up.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.